to the What Juices You podcast. And my guest today is Bob Madden. Bob Madden is a leader in the people side of a very complex healthcare system in the United States. And Bob, first of all, welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you, Brady. Very, very happy to be here. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So we've had a bit of history together and had some real beautiful experiences just in terms of working with your people and in the midst of the severe and significant challenges that you face, you've been able in your business to create some very significant wins in terms of the levels of healthcare outcomes that you achieve with your patients. So I want to dig into that. And I really want to dig into what juices you in the midst of sustaining energy for your physicians, your nurses, your employees, to deliver those types of outcomes. And I know that today we face higher levels of acuity, more diabetes, more obesity, etc. We could go on, but that does make the job a lot tougher. And it's not like you have a never-ending stream of nurses. They're getting tired. Your employees can be exhausted. Actually, Richard, your CEO, told me that half of the physicians who finish their education and are deciding, do I do my residency or not, go, I think I'll just go work for a biotech organization, and who wants to be a physician? And so that stream and flow of physicians into the system is, I think, somewhat drying up. So how does one, in your situation, who is trying to be that cultural architect of how do we sustain people's energy and make sure their needs get met, how do you sustain your energy in doing that? So let's just dive in. What juices you? And Bob, at any point, if you want to go back to, there's something that happened to me as a youth that really inclined me, and we're not going to go into therapy here, but actually it was one of those kind of defining moments for me that drew me into the work that I do today. So anytime you want to go into that, that's totally fine. So let's launch. And what juices you in the midst of sustaining that?
Yeah, I think for me, what juices me is helping people find the best versions of themselves, whatever that is. I think when working with physicians in particular, the primary population I work with, physicians, they are driven, period. It's just part of the nature of the beast. You just mentioned, half the folks that finish medical school go on to something else, right? Mm-hmm. And so those that make it to residency, make it through residency, and make it to this point already have a lot of drive.
Yes.
And so in many ways, it's helping them find the ways to find fulfillment, to really find that the best way to point that drive so that they get even more of what they want. And so that's a lot of what drives me, what juices me, is helping them find better ways to get there. And it can be as simple as you mentioned the acuity of patients that are coming in and how the comorbidities just stack up. And very often, folks, the patients, they know their situation, and so they don't want to go into the doctor necessarily. But when they do, they have a list of complaints. And, it can be as simple as telling the doctor at the beginning of the visit, just keep asking what else. Just keep asking what else. Get to the bottom of the list in a non-judgmental fashion. And then you, as physician, prioritize the things, right? So it's giving them control so they can manage the visit. And so it's things like that. Simple things.
Yeah. I heard a stat that when a patient walks in and they're having that conversation with the doctor said, okay, so what brings you here today? And they start to describe their symptoms, et cetera, their situation. that the average time before the physician jumps in and starts just diagnosing is 18 seconds.
Yeah,
So,
no, there's a ton of work has been done on this, and we quote different studies. It's anywhere from 11 to 22 seconds. And the stat we quote back to them also is the average patient gets everything out in 90 seconds.
yeah, yeah,
And it makes a huge difference giving them that uninterrupted talk time for patient satisfaction and physician satisfaction as well. Because there is this emotional element to medicine. Yes, there is science behind it, undoubtedly. But there
yeah,
is also this emotional component, and you need to tap into those human emotions. When you're in the exam room as a physician, you are the leader in that exam room.
yeah.
So yeah, and that's how we tap into that emotional side, is giving that uninterrupted talk time, or one of the ways.
I love it. And so I'm a physician, and as you said, what I already have on board is drivenness.
Yes.
And my guess is, Bob, that what it is that fuels and sustains my drivenness for one physician can be 180 for another.
Yes.
So I can be driven to create rich human connection with my patients and deliver that nurturing, altruistic care. I can be driven by how many patients I see in a day. I can be driven by I provide the best evidence-based care that you can imagine. And so there's that kind of cutting edge drivenness. And I would imagine there's 10 more. But they don't necessarily, I would think, always bring the awareness with them of what it is that fuels and sustains their energy. So I bet you part of your work is helping them make that connection. Is that true?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Right. So for some they believe, and are probably correctly so, that what drives them is solving the problem.
Yep.
What drives them is either solving the problem, fixing it, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is so much value in that.
Sure.
And there also is what will keep you from burning out is that emotional connection. And that can feel like a contradiction at times,
Yeah.
because that comes with its own weight, right?
Yeah.
That comes with its own vulnerability. One of the things we like to do is ask folks to connect back to, why did you choose this in the first place?
Right.
What got you in here in the first place? I know for me, my mom was a nurse. And so what fueled her was helping people.
Yeah.
And so that was very much a model for me. And that's why I got into teaching in the first place. And then
Yep.
I transitioned into teaching teachers. And then I somehow landed in this gig, where I get to combine a lot of the different things. And so again, what juices me is the helping of people, and it's helping the physicians connect with that side of themselves, as well.
Speaking of landing where you did, maybe it would be helpful just to give people a bit of context
Yeah,
about your organization.
sure.
Go ahead and brag about it or whatever, but give us a sense for what your role is and the organization that you work in, where you're situated.
Absolutely, yeah. So many of you have probably heard of Kaiser Permanente, and Permanente is actually a couple separate entities. The Kaiser side, which is the health insurance side, and then the Permanente side, which is the physician side, the physicians that provide healthcare for the insurance members. And so I work on the Permanente side. My role is Senior Director of Learning and Professional Development, but I have a couple of main remits here, where number one is leading the patient communication programming, or the relational skills programming, and also overseeing our leadership development programming.
Mm-hmm.
And, some of the work I've done is to help folks see the nexus of those things, to see how, hey, as we build your patient communication skills, as we build your relational skills, those are going to translate into leadership skills as well.
Yeah.
Whether that be leading through influence, whether that be stepping up to conflict, whatever those things are, those skills transfer well, because ultimately, when you're in leadership, you're in the people business.
Right.
And so that's a lot of what I do in my day to day.
We have this equation, and nothing's ever an equation. Let's face that. But when we get real reductionist at Juice, we say that people do have needs.
Yes.
And they've got these basic human driving needs, speaking of drivenness, and that when we can get our needs met, it releases energy and all kinds of different energy. So relational energy or producing energy or meaning making energy. And out of that energy comes performance, and out of that performance comes good outcomes. Now, what I think you just said is that what you need to be successful in terms of the relational and emotional connection that you make with your patients parlays instantly into who you are as a leader and how you make connection between yourself and nurses, between yourself and employees, et cetera, and the rest of your medical team. Could you speak to that connection, whether that makes sense to you, first of all, and if it does, how you see that playing out?
Absolutely, 1000%. It plays in, and so we many years ago, a group out in California developed what we call the 4 habits model, which is basically a model of it's a conversation model in the exam room, and it has 4 main components. Number 1, invest in the beginning. 2, elicit perspective. 3, demonstrate empathy. And 4, invest in the end. Now tell me what leadership one-on-one with someone is not going to benefit from those 4 things.
Yeah.
Invest in the beginning. I am letting you know you are important. I've put all my distractions away. I am sitting eye to eye with you, and I am here present for you. Elicit perspective. I want to hear from you what is going on, what matters to you, what do you think the solution might be. Demonstrating empathy. It sounds to me like this is a very frustrating situation. Or, wow, that really has you jazzed right now. How do we get more of that? And then investing in the end. So today we talked about boom, 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 and we're going to move forward with this, and this. Whether you're working with patients or whether you're working with a colleague or whether you're working with a direct report, those 4 things, those are just good. That's just good people skills.
Yes.
And so that's how we see it translate.
I could imagine that when I see the list of patients that I need to see today, I might skip from number 1 right to number 4 very quickly.
Right.
And number 2 and number 3 could be given short shrift. Is that true?
1000% true. Absolutely. Yeah. Because, it can be, hey, patients are coming to utilize my expertise. Why do they need my empathy?
Yeah.
Why do I need to listen to their perspective? But there's a really a classic story that one of our physicians tells at one of our communication events, one of our patient relation events, is she talks about this woman who comes in, who swears she has chest pains. She thinks she's having she thinks she might be having heart palpitations or heart attack or something along those lines. And so she does the full exam, and the doctor knows this is not a heart problem, right? But how do you convey that to the patient without just saying it's not your heart, right? You need to give the patient confidence it's not her heart. And so she asks her, she thinks it's a musculoskeletal thing. She asks her, hey, have you been doing any kind of rowing motion lately? And the woman thinks about it, and the woman says, well, the elevator's been out in my building, and I've been carrying my shopping cart and having to lift it upstairs. Right? So it's like, just that eliciting perspective. Now, there's going to be no follow-up visits. It's ultimately going to save time. Just taking that extra minute or so to ask that question, hear the story, makes a world of difference for that patient.
Totally. What you just described, I'm interested in how when a physician actually gets that and
Yeah.
sees that, yes, this is not the thing that gets in the way of me seeing a bunch of patients today. It's actually the thing that could allow me to get to that seminal root issue more quickly and more effectively, and not have to see that patient 10 more times,
Yes.
increasing your satisfaction scores, etc. But when they get that, do you see them translating that into, here's how I then work with my nursing staff, here's how I work with employees, here's how I work with irate family members of patients? Does it start to, when it clicks in, does it start to parlay itself into all sorts of different relationships?
Yes. And many of them see the transferability of the skills. It does take time, it does take practice, it does take an invitation to do that, to see that. But many of them do see that transition. I used to joke with folks that the number one rule of any communication skills training when you take it is don't tell your spouse, because your spouse is going to, oh, you're just doing those tricks on me, right? And
Right.
sometimes our partners do call them out on it, but I've actually changed my story on that a bit. I'm like, no, actually, you know what? Do share with them,
Yeah.
because it's going to make them a better partner too. And then when you do use these skills in a genuine, authentic manner, that's an extra way of saying, I care.
Yeah.
So yeah, they absolutely do see that translate into their personal lives. And yes, we do say, hey, this is stuff you can do with the clinic staff. And because they're in that frenetic day-to-day clinic life as well. And sometimes just that moment of pausing and asking, hey, Mr. Smith, our last patient seemed to be, a little angry. How are you doing? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Can make a world of difference down the line. Keeping that relationship and maintaining and building it is going to make your day all the better as well.
I bet. I bet. If one of the issues is skipping from 1 to 4 of your model, and
Yeah.
rather than, it can be the person who you're dealing with, nurse, employee, etc., can walk away going, "Oh, that was just like a transaction, a tick box experience. I was dealing with an automaton, or it was robotic,"
Yeah.
or it can shift from transaction to, "Oh no, it was somewhat of an interaction." It can actually go to partnering. This person is actually standing for my success or holding out for my highest good. That that journey there, I can imagine some of your more seasoned and mature physicians have learned how to make that journey and why it's so important. And there can be others that, whatever the drive for just efficiency or numbers or whatever, get in the way of that evolution. So that can be frustrating for someone like yourself, because you put yourself out there in coaching situations in the training room. So I'm going to get to now how it is that you get your needs met in a skillful manner to sustain your energy so that you can be a high performer and get the outcomes that you want with your physicians, and etc. So talk about sustaining your own energy, and what have been some of the pitfalls and what have been some of the wins for you.
Yeah. So, as you were talking, many things kind of went through my mind. One is the interrelationship between mission and metrics. You know, I absolutely believe in what we train, but how that translates into metrics isn't always a clear path. But at the same time, if you can show that what you are doing is making a difference in the metrics, then you win your autonomy and independence.
Right, right.
Then you get more runway to do more things that matter,
Yep.
or at least that will make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, things that have sustained me have been looking back at, what have our accomplishments been? What
Yeah.
differences have we made? Because making a difference matters a lot to me
I bet.
and to the team that I have the honor to work with. Making a difference matters a lot to us. We want to see that difference in individual physician lives, but then also in the broader sense. Yeah, I mean, I can sit here and quote, yes, since we started this work in 2019, we've seen a 7-point increase on our member patient satisfaction scores over the course of those years, basically a point improvement per year. That's a wonderful thing to
Mm,
see. But at the end of the day, what really matters to us is how many physician careers have we prolonged?
interesting.
How many patient lives have we touched by making a difference in a physician's life? One of the things I say often is, as a person in training, funny, as a person who works in training, although perhaps we are
There's
all
both,
persons in training, it's
both
both.
are, yeah,
This is the closest I will ever come to saving lives.
yeah,
I have absolutely zero doubt that our work has saved lives indirectly,
yep.
but has done it. And so touching with that helps sustain me. The other thing that sustains me is the very close and meaningful relationships I have established, both with the members of my team and the broader and the broader medical group, the physicians that I get to work with. I had one of those physicians, we were at an event a couple of months ago, actually about 4 months ago or so, and we were enjoying a nightcap around
Yeah.
a fire outside, and just hearing him talk about what a difference our team has made brought tears to my eyes. And as he's talking through this, I'm thinking these are the moments that I need to keep coming back to in those harder, more challenging, depleted times. So those are the things that keep me energized and keep me sustained and keep me going.
I love that. One of the things we see, Bob, is that while those experiences are recorded somewhere, either in your memory or sometimes journaled or wherever, that leaders can neglect socializing those stories or those data. I mean, talking about organizations like UNICEF, et cetera, where you've got these life-saving stories, and often those stories are actually not brought back into people's relived experience. I'm hearing that for you, you keep them alive for yourself, and I'm guessing that you actually bring them back to other people's memories. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, wow. That's one that we as a team find a challenge. And I say that because we enter the work we do, we enter with humility
Yep.
and we enter with vulnerability, and we believe it's important I mean, we are those things and we see the value of modeling those things. And then to ask us to tell a story that is promoting us and that feels self-congratulatory, that feels like we're doing this, can feel antithetical to that
Yeah.
and can be a challenge for us. And so we find this tension, for lack of better words, of we know that we need to promote the work. We know we need to tell those stories to keep the work going. But how do we do that and maintain our humility about it without sounding, so it can feel like a tightrope, but I
Yeah.
think the reality is we need to keep telling those stories because it's good for us to hear, it's good for others to hear, and it does keep the work going. So it's like we need to shift our own story about telling the stories. And I think
Yes.
everyone agrees story is such a powerful medium. And so knowing how to tell stories is important. Knowing how to tell our story is important. And then also recognizing where we are in our bigger story right now is critical as well. Yeah.
Can you speak to that? Uh,
Mm.
the story I have in my head is that, so think back to 2000 or 2005 or whatever.
Woo.
Some things have changed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
One or two.
yeah, not the least of which is a little pandemic that we threw in there, AI. I
Indeed.
mean, we could go on and on. However, some things have not changed.
Hmm.
Our need for meaning
Yep.
as human beings has not changed. Our need for connection, if anything, has probably ramped up by, a 2 times or 3 times factor. And there's good reasons for that, of course. Our need for autonomy.
Hmm.
And so these universal and enduring needs have not changed. And my guess is they probably won't ever. They will just show up in different ways. However, we live in a system where we are divided along lines of politics, age, gender, and race. I mean, you could just go on and on and on, right?
Yeah.
And so fragmentation and the sense of we are more separated, when what we thought would come out of COVID is this kind of out of the zeitgeist was, oh, we're all connected. Well, somehow that evaporated a little bit.
Yeah.
And it feels like we are more segmented. We're polarized. We are divided and fragmented. And so, in the midst of your situation, that's got to be a tough one to manage, because healthcare is intersecting that in a very, very interesting way. And I'm not sure that it's more challenging in the States than it is in Canada or some other organization or a country. But perhaps you could just talk about how sustaining energy in the midst of the current context that we've just described, how you've discovered how to do that or how challenging that is for you.
Yeah. I so many things to talk about there.
Mm-hmm.
I think one is I've tried to keep this theme this year of community going. What are the communities that we have in the medical group? What are the communities we are a part of? What are the communities we want to build? What are the communities we need to foster and maybe garden a little bit? Because to your point, the world in many ways it feels like it has been set up to isolate us and divide us.
Yes.
And physicianing in particular can be very isolating because it is just you in the exam room. Leadership can feel
Mm-hmm.
very lonely at times.
Truly.
And so we in my department, we try to provide lots of different spaces and avenues for folks to meet and have conversations. So, we have several leadership programs where even though they're online, webinar style, we very intentionally provide lots of pockets of time within there for folks to go into breakout rooms, to have conversations leader to
Right.
leader, so that you recognize, hey, it's not just me, you know?
Yes.
And as far as me, sustaining myself, it's, it's recognizing that I do have a need to connect. I do have this need to have healthy relationships, to proliferate a healthy culture. And so where I'm at in my role right now, about 6.5 years into my role, is who else do I need to be talking to? Who else do I need to hear from? What because I have my brain trust. I have my 3 or 4 people that I go to on the regular and that I connect with when I need to connect with, or that I need to hear what's needed now, or that I need feedback from, right? I
Yeah.
have this group of folks that I go to. And I'm also recognizing too that, I could use some expansion there. I could use
Yes.
some fresh ideas, some fresh perspectives, and potentially some different avenues of, for lack of better words, business for our department. We used to be viewed as just events. You
Mhm.
plop in, you do your learning, and then you leave. And that was our department. And
Yeah.
there is value to that. You talk about COVID, right? I can still remember our first in-person event we had after COVID, and what a celebration that was in a
Right.
lot of ways, right? That coming back together. So there is value in coming together. And there's also value in sustained relationships of when you have a problem, who are you going to pick up the phone and
Yeah.
call and say, hey, I'm facing a challenge right now. Like, I have a slide deck that's sitting in my inbox right now from someone that said, hey, we're going to do this webinar on vaccine confidence. We're not even calling it vaccine hesitancy anymore. We're going with the positive
Right.
vaccine confidence. How are we talking about vaccine confidence? 6 years ago, that never would have happened.
I
They
see.
never would have approached us with that about how do we communicate out vaccine confidence, right? So it's finding those alternate avenues, building those relationships outside of that comfort circle to get even more of that making a difference cycle
Yes.
loop
Yes.
going. Yeah.
And the autonomy that you were talking about before. It's like
Yes.
every time you bolster your track record by hitting it out of the park, you expand that level of you can try different things. And you know what? This sounds a little wonky, Bob, but go for it because you've always hit the mark. So, yeah, more making a difference, more of the quality connections, more autonomy comes out of that very intentional reaching out and expanding the conversations that you have with different people. I love it.
Absolutely. I had a really had a very interesting scenario happen about 3 weeks ago or so. You're aware that we have a couple groups here that are piloting the What Juices You app,
Yeah.
and one of the groups is led by 2 leaders, and they put out they put out a prompt for folks to answer, and a lot of folks chose to, in response to this initiative, fair treatment. And then you had the 2 leaders on one end energized by fair treatment, and then their folks on the opposite end. And it was
Yeah.
eye-opening for them
Wow.
to see that, because they were in the conversations
Yeah.
that got things to where it was. So in their
Mhm.
minds, this was fair, and in their folks' minds, it didn't appear that way, but it was eye-opening for them. And so those aha moments are another thing that drives me and sustains me as well. Getting to see those aha moments, because again, it's about helping folks get to the best versions of themselves. And I just want to say, those leaders, they're very conscientious leaders,
Yeah.
right? And the fact that they're asking their folks, what drives you? Where are you energy wise? Shows that.
Yes.
It's good stuff.
It's beautiful. It points to, I think, the difference that we've discovered having the engagement conversation versus having the energy conversation.
Yep.
And there's something about trying to get into the engagement conversation that's stigmatized and feels a little bit negative. It's like, what do you mean? You don't think I'm dedicated? You don't think I'm coming in early and staying late? Like, you don't think I'm engaged? Whereas when we ask, what juices you? What energizes you? It's very fluid, and people don't mind talking about that at all. And so, as soon as you put out a few probes, like is fair treatment one of those things, then you can get to the root cause pretty quickly, which is amazing.
The example that I love to use, the difference between engagement and energized,
Mm-hmm.
is I will ask folks, where are the parents in the room? And we will get hands raised, and I will ask you, after a long day at work, after making dinner, after doing the dishes, after making sure homework was done, and it's now time for your kids to put on their pajamas and brush teeth, you can absolutely be engaged in that task. But are you anywhere near energized during
That's great.
your leadership of that task?
That's great. I'm writing
And they
this
get
down,
it.
actually.
Right there. Right
yeah.
there. They get it. That's the difference.
Yeah. That's it. So you're 6.5 years in, and sometimes it can feel like a marathon. And right. So it's like, oh, I'm at 18 miles and I got more to go. Can I finish strong? And after having run a few marathons, I know what it's like to hit the wall.
Yeah.
And sometimes it really matters whether we can pair up with somebody and have a partner that can run us in and help us finish strong. And sometimes that is not a person, but it's a new lease on life. It's a new challenge. It's a new part of your role. You're at 6.5 years. How do you see yourself finishing strong in your role, whether that's, another 5 or 10 years or whatever it is for you? What is the next few years going to be like for you in terms of sustaining your energy?
That is a question that has been top of mind for me for about the last 6 months or so, honestly.
Okay.
As you said, being 6.5 years in, the joke is you're married to your job, and the 7-year itch happens, right? But
Yeah.
I think it happens. This is not me looking to exit. This is me looking at what else is there? What can be done? What is needed now? Because a lot of that 6.5 years has been spent building programs, building credibility, getting out of COVID. Like, we basically went from fully online to from fully offline to fully online to a hybrid.
Yeah.
And so, now it's kind of like, oh, we actually get to breathe a little bit. But in that breathing, there's also some taking stock of, okay, so we've established this. We are working at capacity.
Yeah.
What happens when the next thing comes down the pike? What do we take off that we fought hard for and replace with that, right? What else is needed? And that can be hard because we are tied to the programs that we have put out there. We love them. We put them out there because they matter.
Yep.
And so it becomes this question of, is it sustaining enough to just keep those programs going? Will we get bored of it? Will we get tired of it? Will we still see the difference, right? Or does it just become rote?
Yep.
Does it deplete us in this insidious way that we don't even notice is depleting us? Do we lose our edge? And I don't, speaking for myself, I don't want to be a leader that just asks the team or myself to go chase something just to chase something.
Right.
That doesn't serve anybody. And so that's the challenge that I find myself grappling with right now. How to keep things fresh. How to keep that feeling of novelty and energy without just doing something new to do something new.
Yes.
And I think that's why I'm looking to explore relationships outside of kind of my inner circle, because again, what energizes me is the people, is helping make a difference for them. So finding those new voices is my current solution. But the word that lingers for me, or the word that's, up there in the back of the head, is the L word, legacy. What legacy do I want to leave? And, it may be 20 years from now when I leave that legacy. It may be 5 years from now. I don't know. But what is that legacy? What is it that when I leave, whenever that is, I want people to say, he made a difference in this.
Yeah.
And it's figuring that out and then working towards that. What else can be done towards that? And if you have ideas, Brady, I'm very open to ideas.
Oh, you and I are in the same boat
We're
because
in the same boat.
I'm thinking about legacy as well.
Yeah, and it feels weird at 48 to be thinking legacy, right? It feels weird to be thinking
Yeah,
about that.
sure.
Um, but I think it is important because if life has taught me anything, it is that change comes at you fast. I mean, we saw it with COVID, right? The world got upended pretty quickly. And I think a lot of us wonder, is AI going to do the same thing? Is it going to radically change things the way a COVID did or the way the internet initially did? And what does that do to our legacy?
Yes,
Which brings me back to your earlier point around the importance of connection. That is an enduring need. That's a
yes,
timeless need.
yes. I just received the shipment of the book that I've been writing for the last 8 years. It's my fifth book, and none
Wow.
of them ever took that long. This one is called Feeling Enough. But the reason I say that is that one of the things that came out of that book was that one does not need to matter endlessly or limitlessly. I don't need to matter to everyone in the world.
Yeah.
And I don't need to matter without limits in a person's life, even my kids' lives. I just need to matter enough.
Yeah.
And for me, when I think about mattering enough, enough is, yeah, I'm going to make things a little more simple. I'm going to make things a little more beautiful. I'm going to make things a little more helpful. And I think actually maybe even this a hard word, but it's another L word. I'm going to make things a little more loving.
Mm.
And so in my work at Juice, if I can go, yeah, it's more simple, it's more beautiful, it's more helpful, it's more loving. It's like, yeah, that's going to be enough for me. I don't have to have this. Yeah, Brady was the Simon Sinek of the world. Never going to happen. And all the best to Simon. But each of us, I think, can find what is mattering enough. And my sense is that when I hear you speak, not just, since 2019, we've had a point every year, for sure. Those data are really impressive and they're important. I do hear you talking about the relationships and the ways that you are saving lives through the people that you're serving, that I think you're going to be able to, 10 years from now, look yourself in the mirror and go, yeah, my gig at KP, I mattered enough. And then that nobody can take that away.
Yeah. I love this idea of mattering enough, um, because I think it is something that we we being society at large, I think feel a lot. I think parents feel a lot of pressure to get parenting right.
Yes.
Are they mattering enough? I know
Right.
as a teacher, I felt that pressure of, am I mattering enough, making enough of a difference? I think people feel it in their, whatever their profession is, whatever their industry is. They feel the pressure to perform. And am I mattering enough? Am I
Yeah.
making enough of a difference,
Yeah.
for whatever it is? I think people feel it in in their romantic relationships as well. Am I mattering enough? And I think in all these things, I think we need to recognize that there are always going to be ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
There are always going to be times when, yes, I need to take a step back, for a moment from whatever it is, to rest, to
Yeah.
take stock, to reflect before re-engaging, before leaning back into it. So it's okay for a little bit to matter less
Yeah.
so that in some time you can matter more.
Yeah.
And it's finding that, you know, one of my favorite sayings, you mentioned, you know, you may not be the Simon Sinek, but one of my favorite ideas that I think about a lot is from Alfie Kohn. I don't know if you're familiar with Alfie Kohn or Alfie Kohn's work,
A little
but
bit. A little
a
bit.
little bit. Yeah. He talks about how he uses this example in parenting, actually, where he says, you know, the whole of your child's experience is greater than any one single event. And he says that to give parents grace, that
Yes.
yes, you might have lost your cool with your child in that moment, but look at how much working with them you have done over the years,
Yeah.
you know. And I think that runs parallel to your mattering enough, is look at the whole of the experience at your job, with your partner, with your kids, with your
Mm.
coworkers, with your patients, you know. Look at that whole experience and find comfort and pride in that.
I just love what you said there. It feels to me like one can be at the situation where you've been there for 6.5 years and put this much value on how much you matter today and this much value on how much you're going to matter in the next years, but this much value in terms of how much you've mattered for the past 6.5 years.
Yeah.
Under indexing on that. And again, for all the right reasons, humility. We don't want to be, climbing to the top of the mountain and crowing like a rooster about our accomplishments. I get that.
Right.
But not necessarily drawing from that well of deep, deep mattering that you have toiled and you have worked and you have paid attention. How does one dip into that and sustain? And I think it feels to me, Bob, like you've got some of that, because I just want to say that as I encounter you today, I don't feel like I'm encountering a person who is clenching and clutching and over trying. I feel like I'm talking to a person who is really partnering with life in a way that is unforced. And that's a beautiful thing. I just want to call that out because I feel it and I see it in your comments, and it speaks of a ease. It speaks of grace. It's beautiful.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It has been an intentional journey. It is definitely my preferred way of being.
Hmm.
And I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't mention my partner, Mel, who has been a big part of that. Um, and it's, um, it can be very counterintuitive for a lot of us who, you know, what is it? The greatest predictors of stress are, stress is inversely related to control and predictability. When control and predictability go down, stress goes up.
Yeah,
There is all sorts of research around that.
sure.
And so it can feel counterintuitive to, to let, you can't control everything, to let go of your control a little bit. And to understand there is going to be unpredictability, but to trust in yourself that you have the skills to handle the things that will come your way. I'll just tell a very quick story about
Yeah.
my son here, where we play Rocket League, which is a silly little video game. It's demolition cars playing soccer. It is as ridiculous as it sounds, but it's beautiful at the same time. And he and we pair up together, and we were in a 2 versus 2 tournament and this weekend, and we actually managed to win the tournament this weekend, and part of what he attributed the win to, he's not even 11 years old, he's 10 years old, but part of what he attributed to was, I wasn't worried about winning. I was just having fun.
Interesting.
I mean, what a powerful lesson.
Oh, took the
right
performance
there.
anxiety right out.
Yes. And it's, carrying that with me and having others carry that lesson, because it can feel counterintuitive. It can feel scary to let go of that control. But doing so makes a world of difference.
I feel like you've tapped into one of the universe's greatest mysteries, which is surrender, which can feel so dangerous.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
So tenuous that surrender is the richest and safest place to live. That is, boy, that's up there with life's mysteries, isn't it?
Yeah. 1000% yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Oh, you and I could probably go on for another couple of hours.
We probably could.
Yeah. We won't do that to our listeners. Listeners, thank you so much for making space for Bob Madden today from Kaiser Permanente. Bob, the fact that you took time out of your day to be on this podcast means the world to me. I have so deeply appreciated our relationship and the ways that you have utilized juice. I always feel so honored when people choose us. And so, all right, so we'll just hang on for a second and see if.
Absolutely, Brady. Thank you for having me. It was absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much.
All the best to you. Have a great day.